Okay. So, guys, the main topic of this webinar is basically how can we work on the career development part when it comes to the e-mobility and the EV section. Okay. And I will keep it very short. I will keep it very specific and direct. We will take different examples. We will take different case studies. We will take different scenarios, different personas, and we will find out that based on different situations, how can we plan the career path towards the e-mobility sector? Okay, let me just start explaining one by one. If you want to make notes also as a part of the webinar, just go ahead. It will be a very interactive webinar in terms of I will not cover any theory part. I will not cover anything about DIYguru. I'll directly go into how we can work on the career development when it comes to the, or you can say how we can work on the, what do you say, the planning for my career. How do I define the journey of my career if I want to work into the EV and the e-mobility section? Now, first of all, don't directly jump into the EV part. That's also very important. We don't have to jump directly to the EV part. Before jumping to the EV part, we have to understand that we have different engineering segments. So we will cover each engineering segment one by one. One, either we are coming from the electrical and the electronic segment. Second, either we are coming from the mechanical or the automotive segment. Third, either we are coming from the diploma or the ITI segment. Fourth, either we are coming from the computer science or the programming segment. Let's take each scenario one by one. Let's start with the electronics and electrical. Okay. When we talk about electronics and electrical segment, we have to think of what are the primary skills when we want to transform in the electrical electronic segment. What are the main skills we can work on? What are the main domains we can target? Or what are the main segments we can go for if we are looking towards the e-mobility as an electrical or electronic engineer? This scenario is for those if you have done your bachelor's in electrical or electronics, or you have done your maybe you're a working professional, you're experienced in this segment, or you have done MTech. So we are talking about those students who are coming from electronic background. For the electronic background, there are few areas we need to really focus on. Naturally, we will be starting with the power electronics. I'm talking about the skills guys here, okay? मैं domains की बात नहीं कर रहा. Domains की बात कर रहा होता, then I would have covered EV, battery charging, and talking about the skills first. Then we have the circuit design and simulation. Third, we go towards a part of PCB design, but this is optional. You don't have to go for the PCB design always. It's only when you are interested specifically in the PCB designing part. Then we go towards the MATLAB based modeling. And in MATLAB based modeling, we have different cases. We have either we start with the simulating part, and then we move towards the advanced modules, advanced toolboxes. Simulink, QSS, Advisor, Simscape, and all. What areas are we planning to cover? For the MATLAB modeling, we want to cover architectural design. Okay. Then after covering all this, we go towards the embedded systems. Once we are done with the embedded systems, we can start with some basics of Raspberry Pi or yeah, we can start with some basic microcontroller at Mega, Arduino, Raspberry Pi and all. And then we move towards some specific ARM Cortex. We go towards some communication protocols. Communication protocols is like, how do I code my CAN, my SPI, my UART, my USART, and all those things. I will link these things with the e-mobility later on, take care. I will tell you how these skills are important for EV. But I just want to tell you that EV is more like an application, guys. Please remember, EV is more like an application. Why I'm saying this? Because electric vehicle is not a skill set. It is like when you are using these skill sets towards the EV as an application. So before we go to the application part, we have to work on the skill part. So once you're done with these things, we go to the embedded, and the last sort of skill set we can target is the ADAS part. That is the autonomous or you can say not autonomous, let's say advanced driving assistance system. Okay, this is the ADAS part. Once we cover the ADAS part, we are complete with the electrical electronic segment of skill sets. Now let's talk about how or what are the main skills when I'm going towards the mechanical part. मैं इसको link करूंगा guys. I'm saying it again and again. Okay, I will tell you how ADAS is used in EV, how embedded system will be used in EV, how MATLAB will be used. We'll cover that part one by one. But now let's go to the second part, considering that you are mechanical or automotive engineer. Okay. In case of electric electronic, you started with power electronics. Here we will start with the vehicle dynamics part. We start with the modeling and simulation. Now, the modeling in case of electrical was more of electrical modeling. Here we are talking about 2D, 3D modeling. You can use softwares like SolidWorks, CATIA. That is mainly for the design purpose. After modeling and simulation, we go towards the 3D transient or dynamic analysis. This is very important if you are coming from the automotive segment. We can target either Altair or we can target ANSYS to perform some 3D dynamic studies. What sort of 3D dynamic studies? For example, thermal. For example, pressure. For example, structural. Now, structural is very important for automotive mechanical. So we perform the 3D analysis using ANSYS. After that, we do a bit of MATLAB, but not for the electrical part, but for the motor controllers, the braking system, the aerodynamics. the load analysis. So we perform the MATLAB for the control system, for the mechanical stability, for the regenerative braking and all. And then we cover the automotive embedded. Now this is going to be very common for the electrical part also. You work with the ARM Cortex and all, but here you are going to target the application of the automotive segments. Maybe you'll be working primarily you'll be working on the motor controller, on the sensor integration, on the CAN data between the automotive systems, the CAN communication. Guys, अगर ज़्यादा spelling खराब है तो सुन लो मैं क्या कह रहा हूँ, because I have to write a lot, इसलिए थोड़ा rough में लिख रहा हूँ. And how do we control systems like the regenerative braking, right? How do I perform some Hall sensors, some aerodynamic sensors and all those things? So a lot part of automotive development is also there. Okay. And then we go towards finally the AutoSAR. AutoSAR is for the vehicle network systems. Now let's go to the third part. The third part is when you are coming from the diploma part or the ITI. When you're coming from the diploma or the ITI, we start primarily with the service segment, the repair segment, the, the, the troubleshooting, the diagnostics, and we go towards the dealership model. When we are talking about the computing part, if you're very good at the programming, if you're very good with the algorithm development and all, then you go towards the data acquisition. Now the data acquisition would be connected with the sensors. So you need to use some strong embedded C programming also. From data acquisition, you then perform the data analysis. From the data analysis, you will be working on some level of real-time data analytical systems. After that, you will be doing some over-the-air computing. And finally, you'll be going towards the software-defined vehicles. We also call it the SDV. If you are very, very good with the programming, you can go towards the cyber security. But that is only when you are very much into computer science and you don't want to go into any level of engineering. You just want to stick to the computer part, the programming part. Then you can surely be a part of the cyber security, right? And depending on what your current status is in terms of what you are doing, what do you want to do at the end of the program or at the end of the training, or when you want to train yourself, then what exactly you want to work on. And depending on what is your current status in terms of what is the current background you're having, whether you're coming from the electrical electronics, whether you're having mechanical automotive segment knowledge, or you're working from the computer science background, or you're coming from the ITI diploma, you can easily find out what is my set of skill sets I need to work on. But कई बार students ऐसा नहीं बोलते. Students क्या कहते हैं कि sir, I am interested in the batteries. I'm interested in the design part. I'm interested in the development part. I'm interested in the testing part. So let's talk about different segments. When I talk about the battery part, In battery part, as an electrical engineer, you have a lot of things to do. You can perform the simulations. You can perform the testing. You can perform the validation. And you can perform the development. The simulations, you do softwares like MATLAB, ANSYS. Testing you perform and validation you perform only if you have the hardware system. So if you are a part of DIYguru and you do these workshops and all, then you can go and perform the testing and validation part. The development is purely from the embedded point of view. As a mechanical engineer, also you can focus on batteries, but then you have to focus more on the battery pack level, where you do the mechanical testing using ANSYS, you perform the mechanical design and thermal testing and electrical testing using MATLAB, where you perform the battery pack validation as a mechanical engineer. You will not do the electrical part. You rather focus on the mechanical part of the battery packs. And you don't develop the BMS software, but you can develop the battery automotive communication. You can work on the battery cooling systems, and you can work on the battery casing and all. And you can develop algorithms towards the automotive part of the battery. And that is what you would do within the embedded system as a mechanical engineer. So अगर मैं battery बोल भी रहा हूँ, it is important to note that as an electrical engineer or electronics engineer, what would I do in terms of batteries? As a mechanical or automotive, what would I do in terms of my battery units? Similarly, if you want to work on the motor part, if you want to work on the motor part, we do the same things, guys. The testing, validation, simulation, development. As an electrical or electronics engineer, as a mechanical or automotive engineer, you both can work on the battery system, but an electrical engineer will basically perform the simulation of the motor electrical performance. Whereas a mechanical automotive engineer will be working more on the torque level output performance. Electrical electronics engineer will work primarily on the electrical 3D analysis. Now, what are the electrical 3D analysis? If my motor is working at, let's say, 48 volts, how my motor will perform if I work at 72 volts, or maybe if I work on my 24 volt, how things will change. If there is a fluctuation in my input voltage, how the output voltage will change. Will it be static? Will it be constant, consistent or not? Whereas a mechanical engineer will perform 3D thermal analysis. He or she will perform the structural analysis and will perform the fatigue analysis, the drop test, pressure test, and all those things. At the development level, at the embedded level, the electrical electronics engineer will develop the motor ECU controller design. So you need to know, or you must know, how to do the programming of my controllers. As a mechanical engineer, you can perform the controller design for the regenerative. Now, this regenerative is important because when you apply the brake, your motor will work as a generator, right? Your motor starts working as a generator when you apply the brake. Similarly, how your motor will be connected to the transmission, how the motor will transmit data to the regenerative system, how it will transmit the data to the battery system, and that's what you will work as a mechanical engineer in terms of the motor technology. Similarly, if you want to work into the charging system, the electrical part engineer will be working mainly on the charger electronics, the power electronics of my charger systems, whereas the mechanical engineer will work more on the charging station level. The electrical engineer will work on technologies like G2V, V2G, whereas the mechanical engineer will work mainly on the output power analysis of my charging systems. What's more important here is to really understand what are the main skills you need to have if you want to target the applications. अगर मैं बहुत simple layman terms में बताऊं, then every engineer, whether you are electrical, mechanical, doesn't matter. Every engineer should be good with two main development softwares. Plus, you must have hardware analysis knowledge, the knowledge of the hardware system, and you should be able to work on the development part. Now, this thing will change drastically if you are coming from the electrical electronics part. Your software will change. As an electrical electronics part, you will focus on MATLAB. You will focus on the circuit design part. You will focus on the ADAS. As a mechanical automotive engineer, you will focus on the ANSYS. You will focus on the SolidWorks. You will focus on the MATLAB also, but for the automotive systems. And in case other ADAS, you'll focus on the AutoSAR. For the hardware system, you would be working on the battery units, on the charging system, whereas a mechanical engineer will be working more on the vehicle integration, on the vehicle dynamics at the chassis level, at the motor level, at the component level, at the system integration, whereas electrical electronic engineer will be working at the controller level, at the electrical level. You will be checking how do I actually work on the electrical calculations, on the numerical analysis. But a mechanical automotive engineer will say, nahin, I'll work more on the system integration, at the quality testing, at the functional testing and validation. The technology still remains the same, only the application is changing. In terms of development, as an embedded knowledge, electrical engineer will work more on the electrical systems, for example, the battery analytics, for example, in terms of electrical system, we will be working on the battery analytics, on the charging controller, on the motor controller also, whereas a mechanical engineer will perform CAN communication, system integration, sensor interfacing, and primarily applying the motor controller hardware or the regenerative braking concepts. The concept will change. The overall domains will still be the same. ऐसा नहीं है कि मैकेनिकल वाला डेवलपमेंट नहीं करेगा, ये हार्डवेयर पे इलेक्ट्रिकल इंजीनियर काम नहीं करेगा. Similarly, if you are coming from the diploma side, you don't need to work on any software. Diploma engineers को softwares की जरूरत नहीं होती. They only need to work on development and hardware. जहाँ पे हमारा service, repair and troubleshooting, diagnostics and ये सब चीजों पे काम करेंगे. You need to work on the two-wheeler segment, on the four-wheeler segment, and this is exactly you need to work on. As a computer science engineer, you don't need to work on hardware. You don't need to work on the development. You will only work on the programming, algorithm development, over the cloud analysis, real-time data analytics, data validation, cloud computing, software-defined vehicles, and so on. But problem कहाँ आती है? You will face main challenges when you will only focus on the software. Students only focus on the software part, but they don't really focus on the hardware implementation. अब आप अगर मेरे पास आओगे बोलोगे सर आई एम वेरी गुड विद मैटलैब, तो मैं उसको कुछ भी नहीं कर सकता. Why? Because industries will not stop at MATLAB. Industry has to develop something at the end of the day. Industry will only use MATLAB to perform some simulations. For example, you are saying I'm developing my BMS. So मैंने BMS की modeling कर ली, ठीक है, very good. You have done the modeling of BMS. But then what after the simulation part? You have developed the BMS over your software. At the end of the day, who will develop the BMS? Are you capable enough of developing your own battery management? चलो let's see कि battery management system के development में चाहिए क्या? What exactly do we need as a part of the battery management system? We need to have proper hardware. What all hardware we would need? We would need sensors. We would need battery system. We would need the controller, right? Now you can simulate the sensors on MATLAB. You can simulate the battery on MATLAB. You can simulate the controller also on MATLAB, and you will do it. बहुत मुश्किल काम नहीं है. 5-6 घंटे दोगे, you'll be able to do it. But the question is, do you actually know how to perform the sensor interfacing? That is the question, right? Do you actually know how to connect your battery to your controller? Or do you actually know how to make basic embedded programming, the algorithms, where you will do this kind of sensor analysis? This is the main question. We all know that in battery management system, if the temperature is reaching beyond 50 degrees, let's say you should cut down the battery plug. And this is all done at the engineering level. ऐसा नहीं कोई mechanical system है जिसने इसको break किया. This completely takes programming at the controller level, data acquisition from the sensor, and data collection from the batteries through the sensors. If you do not know how to code your controller, there is no use of learning BMS, because at the end of the day, आप फिर चीजों को hypothetically ही कर रहे हो. You're not actually doing the engineering here. So if somebody will ask you what is the best thing you can do as a BMS engineer, a simple answer होना चाहिए, as a BMS engineer, I can develop the BMS. So when you are saying I want to go into batteries, please make sure you have something substantial at the end of the day. You need to have proper development expertise. अब आप डायरेक्टली BMS नहीं बना सकते. ऐसा नहीं है कि मैं आपको आज एक कंट्रोलर दे दूंगा and you will be able to program that controller. It's a very long journey. You need to see which software do you need to program the controller, which sort of connections you need to make, how do you perform the interfacing to program your controller. आपको बहुत बेसिक से स्टार्ट करना पड़ेगा. How do I program my LCD? How do I program my LED system? How do I program my buzzer? How do I take input from the user? You first have to be good with the controllers ना. ऐसा तो नहीं है कि आपको ARM Cortex आता ही नहीं है और उसके पहले ही आपने BMS बना दिया. You cannot do it. You cannot do the development before working at the component level, because development is at the system level, guys. It is a system level development. BMS is a system. Motor controller is a system. Charging controller is a system. All these are individual ECUs. मेरा target क्या है? That at the end of the day, you should be able to develop your ECUs. ECU1, ECU2, and ECU3. You would need to develop your own ECUs. But आप बनाओगे कैसे? This is a system level development. You first have to work at the component level. Now, to work at the component level, you need to understand how these controllers are actually working. आपको पता ही नहीं है अगर कि controller को code कैसे करना है. It's a difficult assembly language programming, guys. Embedded C एक मुश्किल language है. It takes about 4 to 5 months to get enough expertise to work on the assembly language programming. इसमें बहुत practice चाहिए. अगर आपने एक LED बनाना भी सीखा ना, you can always go to ChatGPT and बोलो इस LED के ऊपर मुझे 10 और different examples दो. You have to program your controller step by step. And after 2 to 3 months of training, you will be able to know how do I do my sensor programming? How do I perform my CAN programming? How do I perform my SPI UART USART programming? And how do I basically connect my sensors through the CAN, through the ARM Cortex or any controller you're working on? And how do I perform the data analysis for my BMS? And then you will program your BMS. If the sensor data is not good enough, if the temperature is high, if the pressure is high, then you do this. You have to do all this one by one. ये basic Python या फिर Raspberry Pi Arduino जैसा नहीं है. Arduino is very simple. ये पूरी चीज मैं Arduino के ऊपर 15 मिनट में कर दूंगा. But that's not relevant because industry don't use Arduino. Arduino at Mega 32 use करता है. At the ARM Cortex level, we have to start assembly language programming, जो typical embedded C होती है. Doesn't matter if you are an electrical, mechanical engineer, कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता उससे. Embedded C सबको आना चाहिए. अब अगर embedded C इतना important है, why are we learning the softwares? Because no company will go directly into the development before analysis. Development is very expensive process. One single battery pack cost about 40 to 50,000 for a two-wheeler system. अगर मैं नई खरीदने जाऊंगा अलग से, it will cost me more than 35-40,000. How can I test 35-40,000 hardware just like that? मैं नहीं कर सकता टेस्टिंग. मेरा एक प्रॉपर जेन्युइन आर्म कॉर्टेक्स ही 3-4 हज़ार का आता है. द कंट्रोलर if I go and buy it from the genuine market. और मेरी जो पूरी किट है एम्बेडेड सिस्टम की जो मेरे स्टूडेंट्स यूज करते हैं लैब वगैरह में, that kit मैंने जब DIYguru has developed that kit on its own with daily, right? That kit alone cost me about 12 to 15,000. So अगर एक भी चिप उसमें से बर्न हो गई, मुझे 12 से 15,000 का नुकसान हो जाएगा. So you cannot go and do the hardware development directly. I will provide you the entire hardware. अगर आपने वर्कशॉप करी, you must have seen जो हम हार्डवेयर पे काम करते हैं. Otherwise, before going into the hardware, you need to work on the software level. That is why we have these software, MATLAB, ANSYS, Altair Hypermesh, Proteus, Altium, and the ADAS, AutoSAR, SimScape toolboxes, and all those things. And once you're done with the software, then you start with the programming of your controller, and then you go towards the hardware. And once you're done with the hardware, then you say कि हाँ, at the end of the day, I have developed this application. इससे पहले नहीं रुकना. टाइम लगेगा, ट्रस्ट मी, बिकॉज हर कोई बीएमएस नहीं बना सकता. कितने लोगों को बीएमएस बनाना आता है, कितने लोगों को मोटर कंट्रोलर बनाना आता है, कितने लोगों को चार्जिंग कंट्रोलर बनाना आता है. आई थिंक 1 लाख में से एक को आता होगा, बिकॉज दिस इज एक्चुअली डिफिकल्ट टेक्नोलॉजी. अभी डीआईवाई गुरु खुद इस पे कंटिन्यूअसली काम कर रहा है. एंड एज वी आर लर्निंग, वी आर ट्राइंग टू ट्रेन यू गाइज ऑल्सो, बिकॉज दिस इज प्योर R&D बेस्ड लर्निंग, राइट? वरना सॉफ्टवेयर बेस्ड ट्रेनिंग तो बहुत आसान है, आप यूट्यूब से भी सीख सकते हैं. बट द मेन थिंग इज, how do I do the development based training at the end of the day? मुझे applications develop करने हैं. Once you are able to develop these systems, then you can develop anything, and then you can say कि I am able to develop my ECU. That is the most important part. We have to combine everything together and create a journey, guys. At the end of the day, there should be a journey. If the journey is not clear, then the whole intent of learning would not be clear. So if you are an engineer, please fix कि हम किस application पे काम करना चाह रहे हैं. मेरे according the best you can do is, you can develop your own controllers, जिसको हम लोग vehicle industry में ECUs बोलते हैं, and you can develop your own vehicle. Vehicle development will be the master project, the capstone project at the end of the training. जो पूरा vehicle आप मेरे साथ बनाओगे, because DIYguru ने start ही बाहा वगैरह के साथ किया था. But this thing is very important, ECU development. Before ECU development, अब ऐसा तो है नहीं इंडिया में सारी कंपनीज हार्डवेयर बना रही है. It means, just a second guys. Yes, ऐसा तो है नहीं इंडिया में सारी कंपनीज हार्डवेयर बना रही है. It means अगर हर कोई हार्डवेयर बनाने लग जाएगा, that's also not good. That is why we have to go towards the software development. That is the programming, the algorithm, the simulation, analysis, 3D simulation, thermal testing, pressure testing, before going into the hardware. And that is why this journey is important. You need to cover the theory part, then you need to cover the software part, then you need to cover the algorithm part. Guys, if you're not good with embedded C, straight away काम शुरू कर दो embedded C पे, and then you go towards the hardware part. अब हार्डवेयर पार्ट में दो चीजें हैं. वन, यू कैन डेवलप द हार्डवेयर, फॉर एग्जांपल ECUs एंड ऑल आप घर से बना सकते हो, जो मैं आपको किट्स वगैरह दूंगा. सेकंड, you have the hardware at the vehicle level where you have the kits. For example, जो kit DIY ने बनाई ITEL के साथ, these kits are quite heavy kits, 50 kilogram, 60 kilogram of weight. There you perform hardware testing. For example, where you perform how do we perform the battery test, the motor test, the charging test, and all those things. मैं कल ही अपने स्टूडेंट्स को बता रहा था वेबिनार में दैट नेक्स्ट मंथ वी आर गोइंग टू वर्क ऑन द फोर व्हीलर टेस्टिंग. तो आप फोर व्हीलर घर पे नहीं बना सकते. दैट इज अ डिफरेंट टाइप ऑफ हार्डवेयर, द सेकेंड लेवल ऑफ हार्डवेयर वेयर यू परफॉर्म द व्हीकल लेवल टेस्टिंग. बट वन हार्डवेयर इज व्हेन यू कैन डेवलप इट. That is the embedded hardware. So the hardware can also be categorized into two zones: the vehicle level hardware, the machine level hardware, and the embedded level hardware. Embedded level hardware you can develop. बिना hardware के भी आप बना सकते हो. कैसे? By working on the algorithms. If your algorithm is ready, you can burn it in your hardware immediately and can run it. So the vehicle level hardware is something which you will do in the labs with me. But the embedded level hardware is something you can start doing it at home. अब बहुत स्टूडेंट्स को बहुत टाइम लगता है सॉफ्टवेयर एंड एल्गोरिथम्स के ऊपर. मे बी यू हैव नॉट डन मैटलैब एवर इन योर लाइफ. If you have not done MATLAB ever in your life, or if you have not done ANSYS, if you have not done circuit designing, if you have not done Altair hypermesh, if you have not done or ADAS, AutoSAR पे कोई एक्सपीरियंस नहीं है, naturally it will take time. So कुछ स्टूडेंट्स को खुद से ज्यादा पढ़ना पड़ता है. Some students have to work more at their own level. मैं आपको कोई भी प्रोग्राम प्रोवाइड कर दूंगा, different students will take it in a different way. So some students might to work more on specific software because they don't have any prior experience. Similarly, some students would need to work a lot on the algorithm part because they have never done the algorithm development. अब कुछ स्टूडेंट्स को ये भी लगता है कि सर आई एम फ्रॉम मैकेनिकल, व्हाई डू आई नीड टू डेवलप एल्गोरिथम. बकवास बात है. आई एम सॉरी बट दिस इज कंप्लीटली स्टूपिड. Why won't you develop your own algorithm? As an engineer, you need to develop your own systems, right? How will you perform system engineering in future? आज से 4-5 साल बाद जब इंडस्ट्री में रहोगे, जब सीनियर लेवल पे चले जाओगे, how will you perform the system engineering if you don't know how the algorithm works? So it's very important that we work on the software, we work on the algorithm, then we go to the hardware. With the hardware, we have the embedded hardware and the machine level hardware. And this is exactly how you should plan your career, guys. Same concept है सबके लिए. If you're a diploma holder, you don't need to work on software or algorithm. Then you directly jump on hardware. If you don't want to do engineering, then मत करो software algorithm. फिर आप hardware पे चले जाओ. Even in hardware, you don't work on the embedded hardware. If you're a diploma ITI student and you want to work into the service repair segment, just go to the machine level hardware testing. बस और कुछ मत करो. It's more than enough for you. As an engineer, the situation is different. But मैंने बहुत clearly, trust me, मैं इसी चीज को 3 घंटे में explain कर सकता था. But in a very, very specific and direct terms, I've explained you how you can design your career based on the applications you want to target. And yes, Tilak, you can work on embedded, MATLAB, SolidWorks, also ANSYS, but उसका use नहीं होगा. If you're working on embedded, Tilak, you don't need to work on all the other software. See, if you're doing SolidWorks, Tilak, it means you want to work as a design engineer. As a design engineer, you don't need to develop the embedded. But if you want to learn SolidWorks की ठीक है सर, मुझे आना चाहिए, it's up to you. अगर सीखना चाह रहे हो, it's good. No issue at all. But for the career path, I don't think SolidWorks, ANSYS, MATLAB, embedded, सब में स्पेशलाइजेशन की जरूरत है. पता सब होना चाहिए, but स्पेशलाइजेशन की जरूरत सब में नहीं है एक साथ. I'll give you one more example. If you are coming from an electrical background and you're saying कि sir, I don't want to work on the SolidWorks, you can work on the control system. I have almost 30-35 hours of content and training ready with the control system part. If you're from mechanical and you don't want to work on control, you can easily go for the design part, where you can design the two-wheeler, the four-wheeler segments and all. So it depends. At the end of the day, आप सब कर सकते हो. You can work on control also, you can work on design also, but specialization तो एक दो चीजों में ही करोगे, right? ऐसा तो है नहीं कि सारी पूरी वर्ल्ड एक साथ कैप्चर कर लोगे. Specialization has to be covered in specific domains only, where you say कि ठीक है मुझे ये सब आता है, but I am doing the specialization also, and my specialization is 3D analysis using ANSYS and automotive embedded development, or electrical architecture design using MATLAB, and battery system analysis using embedded systems. We have to pick such specializations. वो तभी होगा जब आपको बेसिक्स क्लियर हो जाएगा. अगर आपको एम्बेडेड प्रोग्रामिंग ही नहीं आती, देन एक्चुअली आप क्या ही स्पेशलाइजेशन बनाओगे. इफ यू डोंट नो एडवांस मैटलैब, इफ यू डोंट नो एडवांस एंसिस, इफ यू डोंट नो एडास एंड और, आप क्या स्पेशलाइजेशन बनाओगे. स्पेशलाइजेशन के लिए एडास या ऑटोसार में से किसी एक को चूज करना पड़ेगा आपको अराउंड 10 months के बाद ट्रेनिंग के. Because ADAS AutoSAR are the most sophisticated applications you can work as a working professional. But जब आपको मैटलैब भी अच्छे से नहीं पता, ऑल्टायर हाइपर मेश नहीं आता, लेट्स से ANSYS नहीं पता, सर्किट डिजाइनिंग नहीं पता, then what is the use of choosing a specialization? ना आप चूज ही नहीं कर पाओगे. You won't be able to select it at all. Okay? And that's a good question, Swaraj. What is the difference between automotive and electrical, electronic, embedded? Because Swaraj, it's all about the application part. I'll tell you, there is a domain of automotive software development. Automotive software development is the profile where electrical electronic students cannot apply. It is only possible if you are an automotive engineer and you want to work with the embedded part. You want to develop your own automotive systems. Automotive और mechanical में क्या फर्क है? Mechanical system में brain नहीं होता. Mechanical system is just pieces joined together. Automotive में क्या होता है? There is a brain also, right? What's exactly the brain? Automotive system में we have added a controller also. For example, your motor drive. Motor drive is a purely automotive system, but वो mechanical system नहीं है. Because in motor drive you have the motor and you have the controller also. So as an automotive engineer, you will be developing the whole motor drive. आप सिर्फ मोटर की bearings नहीं बनाओगे. You will not just connect the stator to the rotor because वो तो mechanical हो गया फिर. In automotive, you will also develop your motor controller. वो तभी होगा जब आपको एल्गोरिथम्स आते होंगे, ऑटोमोटिव सॉफ्टवेयर पे कुछ नॉलेज होगी. दैट इज द मेन डिफरेंस बिटवीन ऑटोमोटिव एम्बेडेड एंड इलेक्ट्रिकल एम्बेडेड. इलेक्ट्रिकल एम्बेडेड क्या करेगा? वो मोटर ड्राइव में मोटर नहीं बनाएगा. इलेक्ट्रिकल एम्बेडेड वाला क्या करेगा? द कैंडिडेट विल से कि ठीक है, फॉर अ बैटरी मैनेजमेंट सिस्टम आई विल ओनली डेवलप द बीएमएस पार्ट, आई विल नॉट डेवलप द बैटरी पैक. ऑटोमोटिव इंजीनियर क्या बोलेगा कि ठीक है, मुझे बैटरी पैक भी पता होना चाहिए. So that is the main difference between automotive. It is the application. आप application क्या बना रहे हो? As an automotive embedded engineer, you will not develop your charging controller. आप V2G पे काम नहीं करोगे. That is purely electrical. आप regenerative braking पे जरूर काम करोगे because that is automotive. It's all about the application. ANSYS दोनों use करते हैं. Electrical electronic engineer also uses ANSYS. The mechanical engineer also uses ANSYS. But electrical engineers perform electrical simulations, the voltage simulations, the what you say the vibrational analysis, whereas automotive engineer ANSYS को use करता है to perform thermal analysis, fatigue analysis, structure analysis, all about the application. ऐसा तो है नहीं कि MATLAB automotive engineer use नहीं करते. There are so many automotive systems which include MATLAB. पूरा AutoSAR हम लोग MATLAB पे train करेंगे आपको. But the same electrical engineer will use MATLAB for the ADAS, not for the AutoSAR. The applications are different. It's all about the application. Okay, that's the main difference. If you are a zoology graduate, Raj, then you have to start from scratch a lot. You have to study a lot. You have to clear your basics. You have to clear your fundamentals. You have to start with the software from scratch. You need to give a lot of time if you are not from the technical domain, Raj. That you have to work a lot more hard in this segment. But you can of course do it. But yeah, will be quite important. ओके सर, मैं मैकेनिकल इंजीनियर हूँ पर मेरे पास स्पेशलाइजेशन रहेगा फ्यूचर में, ज़्यादा ग्रोथ ईवी आर करने के लिए. मुझे ऑटो कैड आता है बेसिक. ऑटो कैड विल नॉट हेल्प यू इन ईवी, प्रशांत. ऑटो कैड मैंने कभी सुना ही नहीं, अब ईवी में यूज भी हो रहा है सच. सी, कैड डिजाइनिंग you can do in Altair, HyperMesh and ANSYS also. Whereas in HyperMesh and ANSYS, you can perform the analysis also. In AutoCAD, you cannot do analysis. So सिर्फ AutoCAD करके it will not really help you. मुझे अपना खुद का ईवी सर्विस सेंटर खोलना है, मुझे थोड़ा गाइड कर दीजिए. अगर सर्विस सेंटर खोलना है प्रशांत, then it's a completely different thing, right? ईवी सर्विस इंजीनियर के लिए don't go for any hardware, any software. For EV service engineering, for EV service center, you have to focus on the hardware only, Prashant, primarily. If you, what you can do, Prashant, you can go for your own EV service segment for sure. जब भी प्रैक्टिकल क्लास हो, दिल्ली सेंटर आने का ट्राई करना प्रशांत, वहां पे मेरे सबसे ज्यादा इंजीनियर्स हैं डिप्लॉयड. टॉक टू देम अबाउट द ईवी सर्विस सेंटर. वो तुम्हें बहुत अच्छे से बताएंगे कि ईवी सर्विस के लिए क्या क्या चीजें चाहिए. बहुत अच्छे से बताएंगे, सब कुछ बताएंगे. अटेंड दोज वर्कशॉप फॉर श्योर. फोर व्हीलर में क्या चाहिए, टू व्हीलर में क्या चाहिए, दे विल टेल यू एवरीथिंग. साथ में प्रशांत, यू कैन डू सम डिजाइन रिलेटेड सॉफ्टवेयर, SolidWorks, CATIA, ANSYS and all. In this way, you will be connected to the engineering part. At the same time, you will be connected to the service center, EV service engineering part also. I think it will be best for you, Prashant. If you cover, you don't need to do embedded, Prashant, because my AutoCAD भी basic आता है and AutoCAD भी basic आता है and you have to work on the service engineering part also. Don't go for embedded, Prashant. It will be too much for you. I won't recommend you going on that part, okay? Target some design engineering softwares and what you say, work on this hardware workshop, especially जो मैं दिल्ली में करवाऊंगा, because दिल्ली में मेरे ज़्यादा engineers हैं and we have the complete setup and all. Okay. Um, yes, Tilak, upcoming workshop will be posted in community, but Tilak, make sure your embedded programming is going on at the right speed. अदरवाइज एम्बेडेड वर्कशॉप वगैरह का फायदा नहीं होगा तुम्हें. एंड अगर तिलक कहीं और आना भी पड़े ना, लेट्स से पुणे और दिल्ली, डू कम देयर, बिकॉज फोर व्हीलर्स हमेशा मैं मुंबई ले आऊँ थोड़ा मुश्किल होगा. सो जस्ट सी, अगर इफ देयर इज अ वर्कशॉप कमिंग इन फोर व्हीलर सेगमेंट, ट्राई टू ट्रैवल फॉर दैट. इट इज क्वाइट इंपॉर्टेंट, बिकॉज अगर मैं इसको थाने लेकर आता हूँ फोर व्हीलर तिलक, तो मेरा कम से कम 8-9 लाख का एक्सपेंस और जा रहा है. सो अभी मैंने दिल्ली में इसलिए सेटअप किया बिकॉज दिल्ली में आई हैव ओपन दिस वर्कशॉप फॉर फोर व्हीलर स्पेसिफिकली, राइट. अब मुझे एक बार देखना पड़ेगा कि फोर व्हीलर की पूरी टेस्टिंग, डीबगिंग मैं दिल्ली में कर लूँ, एंड देन आई विल गो टू द थाने पार्ट. सो इफ यू रियली फील थे ना कि हाँ यार, मुझे फोर व्हीलर के ऊपर डीबगिंग टेस्टिंग हार्डवेयर पूरा करना है, देयर आर टू ऑप्शंस. इधर यू कम टू दिल्ली विद सम ट्रैवलिंग एंड ऑल, या तो वी हैव टू वेट फॉर मुंबई. बट तिलक, ये चीज ना बहुत मुश्किल है, because there are very few vehicles which allow data acquisition. इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल्स डेटा कलेक्ट करने का ऑप्शन ही नहीं देते, राइट. देर आर वेरी फ्यू व्हीकल्स, महिंद्रा, टाटा टियागो एंड ऑल, जो अलाउ करती है डेटा एक्विजिशन. मेरा एक सिंगल स्कैनर अराउंड व्हाट यू से मेरा एक सिंगल स्कैनर अराउंड 2.5 लाख का आता है, जिसमें से मैं डेटा लेता हूँ. एंड फ्रॉम दैट डेटा यू गेट द फॉल्ट कोड्स. फ्रॉम द फॉल्ट कोड्स यू परफॉर्म द व्हीकल डीबगिंग. सो जस्ट गिव मी अबाउट 3-4 weeks. मेरा स्कैनर और व्हीकल दोनों दिल्ली सेंटर आ चुका है. माई टीम इज वर्किंग ऑन दैट, बिकॉज बहुत कम ऐसे सोल्यूशंस हैं जहां पर हम फोर व्हीलर को डीबग कर पा रहे हैं. इट विल बी अपडेटेड. एक बार स्टार्ट होगा ना, इट विल बी अपडेटेड एट अ वेरी वेरी फास्ट पेस. टिल देन मेक श्योर तिलक योर ANSYS, MATLAB are very 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 good and your EV Essential Advanced both are ready. इतना तुम्हारी तरफ से हो जाना चाहिए. अदरवाइज हार्डवेयर करके फायदा नहीं है इफ यू डोंट नो द एल्गोरिथम एंड द सॉफ्टवेयर पार्ट. अगर ये दो चीजें नहीं आ रही, तो फिर हार्डवेयर में डायरेक्ट जंप करके भी कोई यूज नहीं होगा. इंजीनियरिंग कंपनीज विल नॉट बी एबल टू यूज देयर एक्सपर्टीज. Okay, I lost your question syllable in between. Sorry. What if I want to focus on OTA deployment with the background? If you want to focus on OTA deployment, भूल जाओ hardware. You don't need to work on the hardware part. You don't need to work on the MATLAB part. You just MATLAB part you can work on, but you don't need to work on SolidWorks. You don't need to work on ANSYS. Only use Python and MATLAB. MATLAB is important because MATLAB can help you to perform some simulations, and the over-the-air deployment purely Python based. So if you want to focus on over-the-air deployment, over-the-air analysis, updates and all with information system management, you have to focus on engineering analytics. And engineering analytics is a very different domain. We do have programs on engineering analytics. One is currently going on the batch, but you have to focus on the programming, data analysis, machine learning for engineering applications. ऐसा नहीं that you analyze some Facebook data or Netflix data, that won't help you. You have to analyze some sensor data sets. You have to analyze some controller data sets. Then only you'll be able to work for the information management for the automotive systems. Okay. Sir, I need offline training, heavy engineering service training, diploma in electrical. Currently, I have in Delhi only. मेरे पास दिल्ली के अलावा कहीं भी heavy engineering service engineering solution नहीं है because it's very expensive. And DIYguru is a bootstrap company. Bootstrap matlab I have not taken any external funds and investment, guys. So it's like internal funds use करके मैं system develop कर रहे हैं. So only in Delhi I have the solution. So you talk to my team what all they have in Delhi. You can come to Delhi also to check what all systems they have. Check the lab, check the workshop, talk to the trainer. एक बार online भी कर सकते हो, just to see what you can work on, and then we'll see. Okay, Piyush, you're saying I'm developing software for different ECUs. Wonderful, you have joined the Avago 12 month. Could you guide me in which part? Piyush, target embedded in a perfect way. If you are already developing ECUs, embedded से अच्छा कुछ नहीं है. Pick MATLAB because MATLAB is very crucial for the AutoSAR ADAS. Pick ARM Cortex as the controller. Arduino वगैरह पे मत करना पीयूष, completely useless है. Pick sophisticated controllers and gradually go into SGV because you're already developing something, right? You're saying you're already developing ECUs. So the next future of ECU is the SGV, where the data is transmitted from the ECU to the control center through the cloud. That is the concept of software-defined vehicles. But before you go to SGV, so there's a layer, guys, okay? I'll tell you, between the ECU and SGV, there is a layer. That layer is exactly what AutoSAR is. AutoSAR क्या कहता है? AutoSAR says how to collect the data and how to send it to cloud. This is exactly what AutoSAR is. That is what I'm saying, Piyush. MATLAB अच्छा होना बहुत जरूरी है. At the same time, target the embedded part. You should be very good with ARM Cortex controllers. ARM Cortex में बार बार इसलिए बोल रहा हूँ because I use ARM Cortex. It's a 40-pin configuration, very sophisticated controller. अगर ARM Cortex कर लिया तो कोई भी controller पे काम कर सकते हो. And then you can go towards the AutoSAR using MATLAB and then SGV. That's the best part because you can take. You're already doing AC programming, which is good. You're working in, it's good now, Mishra, if you are working in Delhi, talk to my team, go to my center in Delhi. It's near Sultanpur MMG Road. Have a look, कौन से vehicle पे काम कर रहे हैं वो लोग. Trainer will explain you, but पूछ लेना if my trainers are there on that day, and then you can discuss with them. It's good you are in Delhi only. Okay, Justin, you're working in solar sector for the last 9 years. I'm a BTech electronic part where I want to focus more. You are already working in solar, Justin. You can easily work on the energy storage system. Now, the energy storage system पे क्या करना पड़ेगा? You need to be good with the battery part. You need to be good with the solar part. You need to be good with the renewable energies and the storage systems. Storage system means where you have different type of battery chemistries, you have different type of battery, what you say, the storage units and all. Yes, I know you're a DIYguru student, Justin, but it's very important that if you're also, Justin, you're working for 9 years. Even if you don't have R&D knowledge, you can have lot of industry and technical knowledge. So you should be very, very good with the overall energy storage systems because the energy storage system will help you to combine the solar knowledge along with the upcoming storage system. Upcoming storage means how do you integrate your solar with the batteries, right? What you should do now, Justin, is that you should pick some hardware capabilities. You should be saying, ki, sir, I want to work on some solar integration with embedded, solar integration with battery, and solar integration with hydrogen fuel cell. And you should ask DIYguru कि I want to work on some practical areas in solar because solar के कम requirements आते comparatively. Only few people are working in solar, right? And then my trainers will be able to make some practical sessions for you, specifically in the solar level. But it's very important, Justin, that for solar technology, you should be able to integrate solar panels to your microcontrollers and controller systems. अगर वो knowledge चाहिए, Justin, it's very good. But that will be very difficult because you're already working for 9 years. Generally, when you're working for 9 years, you are having more industry knowledge and less engineering knowledge. वो engineering कम हो जाता है, management ज़्यादा हो जाता है. So if you want to work on the management level, prepare yourself with the energy storage system and then try to ask my trainer that I want to work on the solar based practical sessions, solar based integration. Agar Justin, if I teach you embedded right now, I'm afraid it might be very difficult for you. So at least cover the whole EV technically, understand the whole EV technically, understand the chemistry, that engineering behind solar, hydrogen fuel cell, and charging systems and energy storage systems. And do send an email to the DIYguru team. कल एक बच्चे ने एक स्टूडेंट मेरा काश ही सेट कि सर आई वांट 2 classes of ARM Cortex weekly. So he sent an email I think yesterday, and then I think 10 p.m. around आज हम लोग मीटिंग करेंगे to see if we can have 2 classes on STM32 based development. So if you send a mail, we'll surely try to work on it. But you recommend DIYguru ki sir, there are few students on solar, but you should have something on solar based practical also. Okay, it's a very good feedback. Okay. Chalo, perfect. Sir, I have completed 5 mandatory. Okay. 4 courses. I am from electrical. I went to interfere. That's Surendra, that's a big problem. See, if you are having a diploma and you are trying to work on engineering part, HR will say that you are a diploma student. How can you work on the engineering part? इसका एक ही तरीका सुरेंद्र, और कोई तरीका नहीं लाइफ में. Get some internship. अभी रिसेंटली एक स्टूडेंट ने कांटेक्ट किया मुझे ओवर द ईमेल that sir, I want internship for experience and I don't want any stipend because I want to cover my employment gap. And now he's working with me on an internship project. Don't wait for the stipend tilak. जब तक पढ़ाई कर रहे हो, go for an unpaid internship with DIYguru only. I'll give you some task and then you can show that after getting diploma, you took some engineering internships, and from the engineering internships, you are working on the, how do you say, you are working on the engineering full-time job. यही एक तरीका है सुरेंद्र. अदरवाइज डायरेक्टली डिप्लोमा से इंजीनियरिंग जॉब में स्विच करना is actually very difficult. Okay, do this. Send an email. That's very important. Otherwise कोई ट्रस्ट नहीं दिखाएगा सुरेंद्र, चाहे कितना भी पढ़ लोगे ना. हाउ वुड यू ट्रस्ट मी? आपको कैसे पता आयुष सही बोल रहा है? Because I'm working in Germany, I have a degree, doctorate as scientist, I have CTO and all. You do evaluate me, right? You do judge me. तभी आप मेरी सुन रहे हो. So in the same way, how HR will have trust on you? HR will not trust you. कि ठीक है कोर्सेज पढ़ के वी कैन नॉट से सुरेंद्र इज एन इंजीनियर. यू हैव टू गेट एन इंटर्नशिप. सो ईमेल मी सुरेंद्र सर, आई वांट एन इंटर्नशिप. आई वोंट बी एबल टू पे यू राइट नाउ सुरेंद्र, बिकॉज मेरे पास अभी कोई पेड इंटर्नशिप पोजीशन नहीं है. एक थी, मैंने वो अपने स्टूडेंट को दे दी, सत्यम को. ही इज नाउ वर्किंग इन दिल्ली, बट इट विल बी वर्क फ्रॉम होम. बट जो भी प्रोजेक्ट आपने करे हैं ना, आई विल गिव यू सम टास्क ऑन दैट एंड देन यू विल बी सेइंग कि ठीक है, नाउ आई हैव गॉट सम एक्सपीरियंस एज एन इंटर्न, एज अ टेक्निकल R&D इंटर्न. एंड देन वो HR ऐसा नहीं बोलेगी दोबारा. HR will not say. HR will understand that you are taking the pain, you are taking the hard work to get some internships, and now you have the experience. So do send me uh, this CV for internship. So Raj, it depends na. If you say, Kisa Ayush, I want to work on the design part, I'll give you the design based task. But then you can go to the company and mention that as an R&D engineer, I have performed the 4-wheeler designing, the 3-wheeler designing also. If you want to work on the embedded, I can give you 20 different tasks. So it doesn't really matter what kind of task I'll give. It depends on you. What is the profile you want to go for? But I'll give you some difficult tasks जो पहले नहीं हुए कभी. That is why it will be an internship. Otherwise, तो वो फिर से training हो गई. Internship should be when you are trying to find the answer on your own. So you tell me, these are the areas I want to focus on. Give me very like proper industry task and projects. 2 महीने लगा उस project पे काम करो and make it as an experience. Take the internship letter from me and then you are already having some kind of experience for the industry jobs. ये best way है. if you feel you're not confident enough. Okay. Okay. Workshop 1 in Delhi, battery technology charging. Workshop 2, embedded system. Workshop 2. Next workshop is on four-wheeler, Swaraj. Okay. It will be in Delhi next month. मैंने बताया मेरी टीम उस पर constantly काम कर रही है. It's very long process. Embedded की hardware workshop start होने वाली है. Not the workshop 2. There is a second embedded workshop, that is the embedded advanced. But it is only allowed to those who have completed the embedded advanced course in the LMS. Once you complete the embedded advanced course in LMS, you will be invited for embedded advanced workshop in Delhi and Pune, where you won't work on LCD LED. You will work on CAN programming, SPI UART, battery programming, and BMS programming. That will be embedded advanced workshop. Embedded की एक और तीसरी workshop आएगी, the advanced part 2, where you'll be working the controllers and the ECUs, जो मैं भी समझा रहा हूँ ना, वो चीज. और I think four-wheeler की है, two-wheeler की है. So we have one four-wheeler, one we have the workshop 1, and 2 to 3 embedded workshops. So about 4 to 5 workshops will be there for us in total. This is the current plan. But embedded की workshop सिर्फ उन्हीं student को invite जाता है personally या जाएगा who have completed the embedded advanced course. Embedded advanced course मिलेगा ही तब when you will complete the embedded essential course. It's a journey. मैं बीच में break नहीं कर सकता. ऐसा नहीं कह सकता कि आप एम्बेडेड एसेंशियल छोड़ दो एंड यू जंप टू एम्बेडेड एडवांस या उसको स्किप करके यू गो फॉर द वर्कशॉप. कोई फायदा ही नहीं होगा. सो कई सारे स्टूडेंट्स को इनविटेशन ही नहीं आएगा वर्कशॉप का बिकॉज उन्होंने वो कोर्सेज ही नहीं किए. दैट्स व्हाई आई एम सेइंग कि एटलीस्ट एलएमएस में एम्बेडेड एडवांस वाला कोर्स रैप अप कर दो एंड इट विल बी much useful. So four-wheeler and embedded advanced, these two workshops are now coming for sure. चलो, I'm not taking any more questions, guys, because मैं थक भी गया हूँ. And thanks for joining this session. I hope it was fruitful. I hope it did help you to create a career planning in terms of EV systems. And I hope you all did like the session. We can have another session. आपको पता है DIYguru is now having sessions every week, every weekend. And great. Let's see then. Hope you all did like the session and we can connect soon again. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, hi. Thank you, everyone. And if anyone wants to connect with us, I'm dropping a link where you can book a one-on-one meeting with our L&D manager and can have a word with him. Okay, so I'm dropping a link here. Just 1 minute. Yeah, okay. So I have dropped a calendar link for our L&D manager, and those who are not our students and who are external learners, they are always welcome to book a session with the L&D manager for their query. Okay, and our students are always welcome to email on support@diybguru.org if they have any query or any other challenge they are facing. Thank you very much for joining the session. Good evening. Bye-bye.